Hello there. This video is going to be about my experiences in Orthodox Christianity, um, uh, in parishes and monasteries, and uh, I was mainly in uh, Rokor, the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. Um, I've written a lot about it, and um, made other recordings talking about it, like how I ended up doing that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get into that some, but I think I'll just kind of go ahead and give an introduction uh, to what I'm talking about, what I'm going to be talking about. Uh, yeah, I guess I would just begin by saying I'm usually kind of against uh, making content like this, because I'm just introverted and uh, find it hard to see like how anyone is supposed to um, process anybody uh, making some content online and talking about their life and whatnot. Found that very difficult to balance, and so um, I've tried to uh, think through a lot of this situation and uh, uh, yeah, be as accurate as possible about what all has happened, um, and recall as much as I can and whatnot. And I don't know. I've tried to talk to a lot of people in the Orthodox Church um, uh, and counselors, and um, it doesn't really go anywhere. Never really went anywhere. I mean, some things were addressed, but my situation, what had happened to me, was never really addressed, uh, and never amounted to, you know, never really amounted to anything about any kind of pastoral care, about how an Orthodox Christian, how I'm supposed to move on as an Orthodox Christian, uh, what I'm supposed to do, whatnot. Spiritually, what am I supposed to do? Never amounted to, was never answered uh, at all. Um, from talking to tons of clergy, and they basically just put off everything I was concerned about, talking to them about, and they never, I mean, literally never answered anything uh, in any honest way, in any concise way at all. Never hardly acknowledged it at all, and I guess in some ways it's been dealt with and no one can just really reverse everything that happened. But at the same time, I I don't know. I find myself in a lot of uh, depression and anxiety, anger, just just thinking about that, thinking about what has happened, and I I just have to wonder if people should know about exactly what's happened, and um, and if other people should be warned about these types of communities I've come across. Um, and yeah, I'd also say maybe those people kind of need to know. Maybe they should be told. They should be rebuked. Uh, for what they've done to me. Maybe they should just really be held accountable somehow. At least, at least by just seeing what this did to me. Um, I think they know, in some sense, in some way, uh, what they were doing was very absurd. But then again, I fear that the Orthodox Church, maybe more so the Russian Church, uh, is just kind of fostering these kinds of ideas and behaviors that are hurting people. And I think I've seen a lot of evidence of that. But I think I've seen a lot of it in other uh, jurisdictions of the Orthodox Church. Uh, Pretty much every jurisdiction I've come across in some way, um, interacted with people from them. I've seen a lot of crazy things. Um, and I don't know. I I debated a lot what the purpose of this would be, what this would serve to accomplish is, and I don't know. I think it would at least show they're very inconsistent. They're very cruel. They are very ignorant, and in some ways just dangerous people. Um, and it's not everyone in those communities. I think there could be, you could say there's a lot of people that just are disillusioned, um, by our society and by uh, other forms of Christianity that are ridiculous. Um, and so you want to seek something holistic and virtuous, that is maybe makes a little more sense and is more historical and whatnot. And yeah, yeah, I can't blame people for wanting that. I'm very disillusioned by America, uh, and most of the world, pretty much. But at the same time, I have just I've been through it. I've seen some crazy stuff in the Orthodox Church. Um, and I'm probably just going to go through a lot of that. And yeah, I've tried to speak about it with counselors, and there's just always a sort of mental gap where they don't understand this way of thinking, the Eastern Christian way of thinking is it's very different from Western Christianity, and Western thought in general, and it requires some philosophical thought, and I mean, I don't think most psychologists aren't really very philosophical, and so I don't know. I think some of this might be hard to hear, and I don't know that anyone can address all of these things, but it's like, here I am. If you wanna hear this, there you go. If I were to start kind of from the beginning of what inspired me to become Orthodox, it was an interest in philosophy and a disillusion, and deprivation just caused by Western Christianity and Western thought, and my family's beliefs that never made sense, never helped me, made me pretty disadvantaged. And just the fact that the Orthodox Church is, the concepts of it are far more coherent, far more historical than anything in Roman Catholicism or Protestantism. And so that was very inspiring, very hopeful. I think I've come to realize in a lot of ways not only is that it's not very philosophical, it's not very logical, it's not very uh, coherent itself. Uh, and not only is that the case, but the parish life, the life of the church, uh, the calendar, the traditions, the fasting is just very strenuous at best, and very nonsensical and dangerous at worst. And I don't know, it's just like I've seen that be the case far too often, far too quickly. Uh, to the point of where I just wonder a lot, why shouldn't I just talk about all this to the best of my ability? And I think I've tried very hard to be uh, cognizant of how it all works, and um, yeah, there's no way I could go through all of that, go through the history, um, uh, the traditions, schedules, what it all amounts to and whatnot, just in a video. But I do have a blog where I've written a lot about that. And yeah, yeah, I can link that in this video. But I don't know. I think uh, something about speaking about it kind of helps me sort through my thoughts and some of the kind of traumatic elements of it. And, which is very difficult to deal with sometimes. So I'm going to try to do that. And I don't know, maybe that's what it takes first for people to see like what these people did to me. They were very clever, very subtle, very good at hiding it, and people, I think people kind of fell for it. I don't know. I think there are a lot of people that could probably tell that, clergy were being abusive and nonsensical and whatnot, but I never really got any confirmation of that. That people could tell that. Uh, and sadly, there were a few I mean, probably 15 laymen that were kind of like bowing down to them and uh, uh, supporting them despite them just directly saying and doing absurd things towards me. And so, why were they doing that? Why would anyone support that? Um, I'm not totally sure. I think you could say there was a cultish mindset kind of brewing between some of them and the clergy. Like they wanted to, I don't know. I have a lot of ideas about that, but I'll kind of get into that uh, chronologically. Um, and if I were to just start from the very beginning about my experience of pursuing orthodoxy, um, to summarize that, uh, yeah, I was very deprived and hopeless and uh, didn't didn't know what to do. Seemed like orthodoxy was just gonna have to be it. No matter how difficult it would. No matter how difficult it would be to just go go to a church 2 hours away, and pretty much every Orthodox church is like 2 hours away, 2 hours apart. Um, and so that's a common struggle for Orthodox people. Um, and I don't know, I think it's just interesting to me. The first time it was always difficult. It was always very difficult to make that trip. The first few times I did it was just unbelievably difficult. And so there's already kind of a point to be made there. Like, how in the world is this feasible or necessary for salvation for a person to be just put through the reamer constantly, and to the point of like you just have no idea what the purpose of what you're doing is. What is the purpose of having an extremely strenuous route, routine of going to church, going to a church? Uh, I would have to think that in itself could cause lots of mental issues and lots of things that could basically cause psychosis. Um, and how would it not? How in the world? I don't know. What I can say just for certain is like I just remember times where that was just unbelievably difficult to the point of um, I just it just makes you feel very very helpless about it itself. And the prospect of becoming Orthodox. It's just, I don't know, it's pretty aimless at that point if you're just being very deprived. Um, uh, I guess overall, I was still able to take care of myself and uh, learn a lot of discipline. Uh, but I would say most of the time that was just discipline I taught myself. I had to find myself. Uh, and I don't know. For the most part, I really didn't learn anything from clergy. Any real useful life advice. Um, I learned a ton about uh, theology and history and philosophy. But even then, it was just mostly on my own time. And say overall, vast majority of the time, parishes, being a part of a parish, which is the orthodox word for church, local church, uh, most of the time, that was very harmful and very counterproductive. And so, I don't know. Maybe I'll just kind of start with well, I'll just continue. Yeah, that being so counterproductive and so aimless and abusive just made me think I would have to become a monk, um, an Orthodox monk. And so I visited a lot of monasteries. Uh, kind of across the country, but mostly in the East Coast. Um, and yeah, that never amounted to anything. It was also just very difficult and very abusive. A lot of clergy, a lot of laity, and monks were just cruel people. And it's, yeah, pretty crazy how consistent it was and how, um, I don't know, there's a lesson to be learned there. God didn't, he wasn't looking out for me uh, when I was pursuing that, and I wasn't protected from any of it. There were many things that specifically were very harmful by visiting those monasteries. And I had no way to foresee that, expect that. and by every standard of Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, it's not supposed to happen. Clergymen are, in the words of St. John Chrysostom, they are supposed to be purer than the sun. And so, and along the lines of what most of the church fathers talk about is pure, was purity. What is purity? What is virtuous? It is kindness, patience, dispassion, temperance, and humility. They say humility. Well, I never saw any of that. I saw some kindness, some attempts at it, but not really. And whatever kindness you thought you were showing me, was pretty disingenuous, and I think they know that to some degree. And so it kind of makes you wonder, what is this really about? Is this really about these virtues? Or is it about feeling virtuous and feeling accomplished, feeling important, special, kind of on top of the world, on top of the food chain, by doing this thing that's not common and is difficult. I think I can make the case pretty well that their behavior was just very unreasonable. And so, I'll try to go through that. And it's just unbelievable how many things, how constant that was. And I don't know. In some sense, it's not even just good to constantly relive that, but it's not good to repress it either. And I don't know, I had no way to foresee these things happening. I just had it was just completely out of nowhere, like what some of these clergy I came across were doing, and it was insane and very harmful. So my my guess would be people should probably know about these things and should be warned. So, um, if I were to start with the most abusive person, well, I'll just start with the first priest I had, who happened to be very abusive. Father Christopher Stanton. Uh, also, his real name is Scott. He was an OCA priest that was basically transferred to a Serbian church, and then to a Russian church. And from the beginning of meeting him, it was just very apparent that he wasn't mindful of theology. He wasn't, I don't know, not knowledgeable at all about it. And for some reason, just the name of his game was just this being a fun personality, and having a fun personality and talking about interesting spiritual experiences, and just he was very all about this just interesting personality. And there was a lot of, the vast majority of the time, he made no sense. He valued this personality and this, I don't know, a certain comfort, rather than just like any kind of concern for the truth and being accurate about theology. And there were many times it was just insane. Just insane what he was saying, and how he was contradicting himself constantly, and wildly contradicting himself. And that alone is just like, I have no clue how the layman didn't catch on to that. I think they must have. And I've written some about that. But this personality that he put on, I just recall, just pretty much from the beginning, was very dishonest, and to the point of I just remember this moment where I was talking to him, one of the first times I did, in the Serbian church. And it was just so weird. Like he made no attempt to be mindful of my mental state and my thoughts and feelings, to the point of it was like he wanted to make I don't know, seek some kind of weird relationship with me. Uh, Maybe not exactly it's a romantic relationship, but it was at least a very dishonest, inconsiderate friendship. Uh, and I remember that just being very disorienting and confusing, of like, why is he just not trying to be a little selfless, at least to recognize what another person is thinking or feeling, and he just didn't do that at all. He wanted to feel, it was like he wanted to feel like a guru. He wanted to feel like he was really doing some good here with whatever he was thinking or saying. And if that is what Orthodox Christianity is about, you know, having your obedience to a priest because you're just, you know, they're way wiser than you, and automatically way wiser. That just doesn't make any sense in all kinds of ways. Like, first of all, there was no possible way for me to be Orthodox as long as he had, and no way for me to know about orthodoxy. So why in the world should a person automatically be demeaned for that? If God just didn't provide that. God did not provide that to me. And it took a lot of struggling and a lot of mental anguish to even just come to understand things about orthodoxy and philosophy on my own, given my upbringing, and that it was just so foreign to Protestantism. And so right off the bat, it's just like, how in the world could a priest justify demeaning people because it was not able, there was no way for them to be Orthodox, and no way for them to have all of the knowledge of the priest. Well, maybe that is the next thing of, what is that knowledge worth? Well, where does that come from? How does all that work out? Well, I have come to find out there is a wealth of information in the Orthodox Church, a wealth of history and knowledge and wisdom passed down, and I really felt like I was able to learn a lot about it. like, I would say at least half of the history I have a very succinct understanding of. But then you read more and more, and you just start to find out it's just way too much information for someone to, I mean, you could read through it all, but I don't think you can do so in an objective way, because it's just like very difficult to balance how did they even balance this? How do you know that they did that objectively for 2,000 years? I think there is a lot of evidence that they didn't, and that there isn't a way to do that. Even just with the history of ecclesiology and how the Orthodox Church manages their different jurisdictions, and how the hierarchy and the clergy interact with each other, and how they manage issues, gets very confusing and very unclear, and maybe I'll write some more about that. But basically, yeah, and it especially gets confusing when you start to think about the issues with the calendar, the old calendar versus the new calendar. And there's this idea, this concern that a lot of Orthodox churches that switch to the Gregorian calendar have become very liberal and very loosey-goosey about tradition. Well, in a sense, that's definitely true, and that's definitely happening. And in another sense, it's not that liberalism and that kind of stuff is not much worse than the abuse that is happening in old calendar churches, like the Russian church and the Serbian church, and probably others. I've really mainly been in the Russian church. So, maybe we'll start with that. Yeah, so I moved to, well, I didn't move there, but I started attending a Russian church in Tennessee, and staying with families and staying at the church so I could attend there. And I don't know. That was very difficult and confusing, and yeah, I'm gonna take a little break, and I will come back for part 2, get through all that.